So the Constitution states in the Second Amendment that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon. I've spent countless hours studying this topic in front of my computer and at the library with my nose in a book, trying to find every little piece of information I can for this exact topic, for this exact speech. I can help you guys today, and you should listen to me because I can save you with all this information that I have from that overwhelming anxiety that comes on election day when you open up the ballot and realize you have no idea what's going on and you don't know which way to vote. So I'm talking about Proposition 63 today, the proposition requiring ammunition background checks. I have three main points I would like to talk about. First, I'll talk about background information on the proposition. Second, I'll talk about straw men and transferring of the weapons or ammunition. And third, I will talk about the actual policies enacted by this proposition. So let's get started. My first central idea will be talking about the background information. The United States Supreme Court has debated for years, decades even, talking about the safety issues and the relevance of the Second Amendment. And from these debates, Ryan Card, who's an associate of the Orange County Office of Gibson, has stated in the 2009 publication of the BYU Journal of Public Law that there have come two major interpretations from these debates. The first one is going to be called the individual's rights theory. This theory protects the individual's right to keep and bear arms. Now, this may not be the most popular interpretation in most of the federal courts in many states, including California, but this did become the major Supreme Court case viewpoint in most of the Supreme Court justices' minds in the 2008 trial, District of Columbia v. Heller. The second interpretation is going to be called the collective rights theory. This theory protects just the collective right of the people to keep and bear arms in order to preserve a well-regulated militia. This is much more of a popular interpretation because it allows you to regulate the people's ammunition or weapons as much as they want. However, because the Second Amendment is a constitutional right, we can't completely ban guns altogether, but we can make it pretty darn hard to get them. That is what Proposition 63 is doing. It falls into the collective rights category. It is indirectly limiting guns by limiting the ammunition, and there's no gun out there that can be fired without an ammunition. So I briefly mentioned before the idea of a Supreme Court case, and that brings me to my second key point, straw men and transferring. A straw man in this context is going to be simply one who buys something in the name of another person. In this case, Harvard Law Review posted in 2014 an article referring to the Abramski v. United States Supreme Court case. Abramski had an uncle named Alvarez who was a legalized gun owner, but this uncle wanted to go buy another gun. However, Abramski thought he would be able to get it for cheaper, so Abramski went out, bought the weapon, and then legally transferred it to Alvarez later on. The problem came in because he didn't necessarily falsify the records, but he did misrepresent himself as the owner of the gun. This rendered all the background information that he had filled out completely useless. Later on, that gun was stolen and actually used in a bank robbery heist, and the police came investigating Abramski, thinking that he was actually a suspect in that crime. Now, this caused a lot of headaches, and it actually caused the law enforcement to investigate the wrong person, giving the criminal more time to escape. Although this was just a legalized transfer, it was legal to transfer the weapon, it does bring up the fair point. What if somebody transfers or buys the ammunition illegally and then transfers it to another illegal person? Well, the very reason that Proposition 63 has a license is for that. It goes to show that without the license, you would not be able to own the ammunition legally. Speaking of laws and policies, that brings me to my third and final key point today. The actual policies enacted by this proposition. Now, Ballotpedia posted this year a very in-depth article referring to each and every one of the policies enacted by this proposition, but there's a lot of them, so I'm just going to keep it short and simple and refer to just a couple of them. The main one is going to be the most obvious one, the actual license required to buy the ammunition. This license would cost up to $50 and would be valid for 4 years. But if any of you are looking to actually buy and then maybe sell ammunition, if you're looking to sell more than 50 rounds a month for hunting purposes, then you would have to own a 1-year license to be able to sell that. The third point that I'm going to look at is a little bit more intrusive. In the year 2000, California deemed it too unsafe to have a large capacity magazine weapon. But if you owned one before the year 2000, you were allowed to keep it after that year. You were allowed to keep it throughout that banishment of the guns. However, Proposition 63 does not allow that anymore. If you have a large capacity rifle now, then you are not allowed to keep it. You would have to get rid of it, sell it to another state or something like that. Now, if you're thinking that you would just buy ammunition out of state and then bring it here, Proposition 63 is also thought of that. If you do that, you would have to buy the ammunition, transfer it to a legalized dealer, then you have to have that legalized dealer transfer it to you with the license. Any failure to comply with any of these policies would result in punishment with severity ranging from fining to losing the ammunition, weapon, or the license to actual jail time. Today I talked to you a lot about Proposition 63. I have 3 key points that I wanted to teach you about. Number 1, I talked to you about the background information of this proposition and why we are limiting ammunition rather than the gun. Second, I talked to you about straw men and what would happen if somebody bought it in the name of another person. And lastly, I talked to you about the actual policies in this proposition. In the very beginning, I referenced and quoted the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed upon. Now is the time for you to get to decide, how do I want to interpret that for yourself? Thank you.